Hello everybody, Weepy Guitar 90 here. Welcome back to the channel. How you doing today? Today we are doing a Dead by Daylight killer tier list. This is gonna be all the killers of the game on the game so far, not including the twins yet, because they're still in the test build on PC. So until they're actually in the game, they're not getting put on the tier list yet. But anyway, we got the tier list so far. S is superior. Get A, B, C, D. D being, the lowest, S being the highest. You know how tier lists work. I guarantee every single one of you has seen a tier list video in your life. Well, if not, you're watching one now, so you've seen it. You've seen a tier list video. Let me turn off these ads. These ads piss me off. I can't turn this one off because it's stupid. Oh, now it's on here too. Anyway, ignore the ads. Ads are stupid unless they're on my video. Then keep them rolling. But yeah, S top, D low. Let's go. Huntress. I'm gonna put Huntress at B middle. Huntress is a good killer. Like the only thing I have against her is her hitbox with the hatchets, and I guess you can say her swing with her her axe. I think, yeah, axe. But despite her hitbox, like she's not generally a bad killer to use. I see a lot more huntresses than most of the killers on this list. So she's getting used a lot more than most of these killers and stuff. No pun taken. Doctor, I'm gonna put Doctor at A list because of his update. Before his update, the Doctor wasn't anything. He was probably gonna be a C, maybe even a D ranked killer. But since his update, he's actually been one of the most seen killers on the game. I should know because I've played against him more than probably Oni, Demogorgon, and the Plague put together. Total. That's how much I see this dude. It's a lot. So yeah, but before his update, he wasn't nothing. Now that he's been updated for almost a year now, he's starting not to get seen anymore. I see him once in a while. He doesn't have his cool music he used to have anymore, which is shocking. I thought they were going to keep that for the rest of his, rest of the game, rest of the time being on the game or whatnot, but I guess not. But yeah, his shocking, he can shock you from in a chase, and once in a while, he can once his power resets, he can shock the ground within like a certain radius. So yeah, despite that, being fucking trash, he's not a bad killer at all. Freddy's gonna go on the A list too. Another killer that before their update were shit. This killer actually was considered the worst killer in the game at one point. Now that he's been updated and now that he has blood pallets, blood puddles, whatever you call them, and he can teleport and he has one of the worst hitboxes in the game, he's widely considered one of the most hated killers and one of those killers you don't like. Yeah, no one likes Freddy anymore. I don't even watch the Friday the 13th movies. That's not even Freddy. That's Jason. Yeah, you can tell I really know my movies. I meant to say Nightmare on Elm Street. I've never really watched any. I've watched all of them. Not really a big fan of them. I don't like them. I don't think they're, scary. I don't think they're cool. But I've seen all the Halloween. I've seen all the Friday the 13th movies. I don't think they're creepy or scary either. Most of them are funny because the acting and the special effects they used back in the 80s and whatnot. So it's funny to watch. Clown is gonna go on B tier. Clown is one of those killers that he is widely considered the hardest killer in the game, the 360 slash loop. He's really hard to loop because he's so big that it's like Saturn traveling around the sun. It takes that long to get. It takes Saturn, like 40, 50 years to go around the sun. It takes like 40 seconds to get around this dude. He's hard to loop, but despite that, he's not really that bad of a killer. The one thing I hate about him is the potions. He can throw them. He has limited potions, but if he throws it and hits you, you're gonna go slow for like good 5 seconds, and he can catch up. He's not that slow of a killer. He's actually really fast for some reason. But not the best killer in the game. A lot of people hate the clown. I'm not a fan of him. I'm scared of clowns, so you see why I put him at this tier. Spirit could actually be considered a top tier, which is why I'm going to put the Spirit at a top tier level. The Spirit is, I rarely see her too. She's one of those killers that are starting to go rare. And I'm actually quite shocked. The Spirit is one of those killers I cannot stand, but I can be fair with. With her phase walk and being, a, something to worry about, but at the same time, depending on how good the Spirit is, the phase walk can actually be helpful for survivors. If it's a bad spirit and they phase walk but they don't know how to, you could get away from the spirit in a chase. But if it's a good one, you're gonna end up being on the hook within the next minute or less than a minute. Spirit's hitbox, isn't the worst. Some might argue that it's terrible. Some might argue that it's not that bad. She's not that hard to 360 and loop and stuff. But if it's like a really good killer, it's gonna be pretty tricky to get away from this spirit. Yeah, there you go. The Legion, A tier. Legion is one of those killers that most people don't mind them. Like, no, you can't really hate him. You can't really love him. You just don't mind him. You hate that he mends, and then he can vault over pallets and stuff, and vault over windows. But you don't mind him because they have the legions have those bunny outfits that make him look adorable. So when they're chasing you, you're like, oh god, and they're aw, and then you realize that that's the killer, and then you run away. But not much to say about the Legion. Despite him mending and that being a pain in the ass, it's not that bad of a killer. No, I use him a lot more than most of these killers, only because I only use 3 different killers when I play killer. He's one of them. The Plague, C tier. The Plague is one of those killers, it's rarely seen, but when you do see it, it's a 75% chance you're gonna win that match. Plague's not really a good killer unless it's a high ranked a Plague, or you have a terrible team. Which, in my case, the last time I faced a Plague, I had a terrible team. All 3 of my teammates died within the first 8 minutes of the game. I was the only one left, and she threw up on one of the exit doors. I didn't notice it until I touched the exit door. I got infected. She found me. Blah. I'm dead. But really, her swing could be arguable to being one of those, hitbox, that terrible hitbox swings. But honestly, she's not that good of a killer. But maybe one day she will be updated and might be the new ruler of Dead by Daylight, but we'll find out eventually. Death Slinger. This is an interesting one because, he can be up, he can be down. I'm going to put him in the middle. I'm going to put him in the middle. I can't necessarily say he's a great killer because, like every killer, it's a 50-50. If they don't hook someone in the first 5 minutes and there's 2 gens done, they're not a good killer. But if they hook someone before we even get halfway on the first gen, they're going to be a great killer. He's one of these killers, that, is extremely beatable, but at the same time, depends how good your teams are. He's the only killer who can, has a gun. He has a chain gun, and he can shoot you, pull you towards him, and then swing his gun at you, and you go down. There's many ways you can, there's many ways you can counter that if he shoots you and if you slide towards like a tree or a wall, you're gonna stop the chain, you're gonna break the chain, you're gonna be able to run away. Or if you're in a vault, you might have a chance to break away. But despite that, Deathslinger isn't really, that great of a killer. When he first came out, he was a lot better of a killer because he was new and no one really knew what to do or how to counter his moves. Now that he's been on the game for over half a year, everyone knows what the hell he can do. Pyramid Head, he's one of these killers I'm gonna put at the A tier. Before his update, after like 2 weeks of being on the game, he was definitely S tier worthy. I think the last time I did one of these tier lists, he was in the S tier. I could be wrong though. That not Trapper, fuck. Pyramid Head, is one of those killers, that I'm starting to see a lot more of. There was when he first came out, the first month he was out, I saw him four or five times every time I played. And then there was that couple months where I saw him once or twice, every week. Now I see him 3 to 4 times, 3 to 4 times a week maybe. So he's starting to come back into the game. He's starting, getting used a lot more. He's the only killer that has more than one Mori. Like if the twins have multiple Moris, but that's two killers into one. Pyramid Head is a solo killer who has multiple Moris. There's 2 ways he can hook you. Either he can put you in his cage, which counts as a hook, or he can hook you. And a lot of people could argue that his swing is a terrible hit. His hitbox is terrible as well. But I mean, he has a 10-foot sword, 10-foot butter knife. I don't think it's argue, but coming from me, who every time he gets hit by a killer that's like 10 feet behind him, yeah, I'm gonna rage. He's not that bad of a killer though. I respect most Pyramid Heads. You know how I am with tunnelers and campers. If a Pyramid Head tunnels and camps me, I'm gonna be pissed. But I can respect a fellow Pyramid Head that doesn't tunnel or camp, but plays fairly and beats me. That's reasonable. The Wraith is gonna be a C tier for me. The Wraith used to be my main, and I'm not sure where I had him ranked my last tier list. It was probably B tier, probably the middle tier. But the Wraith is one of those killers, that once again, like the Plague, it could be 50-50, but most of the time, you're going to get the easy win. The Wraith is actually known as the fastest killer in the game. When he has his cloak on, he is the fastest killer in the game. Really fast, actually. I watched the video on YouTube of, the fastest killer in the game. He won it by a long shot. He's actually really fast when he's cloaked. But despite that, he's not really that good of a killer. He's really easy to find. Even though he's invisible, well, technically invisible. You shine a flashlight at him, you're gonna stun him. He's really easy to drop pallets onto. I've dropped a lot of pallets on his head. So I can say he's easy in my opinion. For some people he might be hard, but for me he's it's 65% chance I'm gonna beat him every game. The Pig is another killer that I'm gonna put at a C tier. Once again, maybe a little better than the Wraith. Some people might argue the Wraith's better than the Pig. I think the Pig might be a little bit harder to beat than the Wraith. The Pig is the first killer known to crouch, and is the first killer to I think make a sound too, but I'm not 100% sure. I played the game for 3.5 years. I don't know how. I don't know. I have no clue. Anyway, though, Pig gets on my nerves 100% of the time. Especially, when the Pig knocks you down, puts a helmet on your head, hooks you, then you get unhooked, and you gotta run to go find one of those things where you get the trap off, the helmet off, and then she knocks you down, hooks you again. I'm like, wow, you just you're gonna tunnel me even though you put a trap on my head? Pisses me off. But despite that, she's not really that hard to beat. This 75%, 65%, I'm gonna go a 60% chance of always winning. the Billy, the Hillbilly, rank A list on the tier list. Billy's one of those killers, even though he was downgraded a bit a couple months ago when him and Bubba were supposedly upgraded, supposedly changed. Billy, went down, Bubba went up, but I still see more Billies than Bubbas, which means people still use Billy, and despite him not having, the normal soundtrack when he's chasing, he has a new one that I think is a lot cooler than, the traditional. You can see him a lot better, because of his the smoke that comes out of his chainsaw. It used to be just a white smoke, now it's like a greenish gray smoke that comes out, so you can see him in a cornfield or you can see him, from like a distance if you're on one side of the map and you look across the other side of the map and you see the smoke, he's over there. But Billy, he's one of those killers that I actually enjoy playing against. If he's running and I see him running towards me, all I gotta do is either vault or make a move and just quickly get out of his way. It's like a heart pumping moment. It's like a feel good moment, going up against a killer who's fast. Because, it gets your blood pumping and it makes you, more observant in the game. Nurse. Nurse. What do you gotta say about the nurse? What do I gotta say about the nurse? The nurse used to be widely considered the best, not the guest, the best killer in the game. I don't believe that. I get the nurse. I get a rank 1 nurse with nurses calling, barbecue, and what other 2 perks she uses to be a good nurse. I don't know, but a nurse with those 2 perks, that's rank 1, that can teleport with ease instead of struggling to teleport, is possibly gonna win. I think there's like a 45% chance of beating the nurse nowadays. A year ago, it would have been maybe 20-35%. Now it's about 45 to 50% chance you're going to beat the nurse. Most of the time, I see terrible nurses, but there's once in a while where you see that nurse you just can't even get a gen or 2 done, and she's already killed 2 of your teammates, hooked you twice, and you're struggling to stay alive. You're struggling to get healed. Michael fucking Myers, S tier. Why do I put Michael Myers at S tier, you may ask? Simple. He is probably, if not the best stealth killer in the game. I get it. Ghostface, blends in with a lot of things because, he wears all black and most of the maps are all dark. Wraithy Boy can go invisible. Somewhat. Michael Myers, though, he's so quiet. You won't even know he's behind you until you're on the gen and you decide to turn your camera around behind you and you realize he's staring at you. And then all of a sudden he stalks you. Now he has tier 3, he hits you, you're down, he hooks you, plebamo, pluff something, oh, you're dead. It's just that he's just that killer, like, hate him or love him, he has probably the lowest percent chance of beating him. Probably, I give him maybe a 25% chance you're going to beat a Michael. Unless he is truly terrible. I've seen truly terrible Michaels before, but it's rare. Trapper. Good old Trapper. A lot of people can argue about this killer, He's the first, he's the original, he's, everyone who's played killer, everyone's first killer to pick when they play killer is Trapper or Wraith or Billy, but most of the time it is Trapper. I'm going to put Trapper at an A tier only because, he's fast. He's a fast walking killer. He's like the clown. These two, they walk, they don't run, but they're very fast. He can put traps on the ground, and if you're playing on a map where there's high, tall grass, there's only 2 things you need to worry about if you're playing on a map that has tall grass. For survivors, it's traps. For killers, it's Claudettes because they can blend in and hide. They can disappear. But Trapper is one of those killers, that makes this it's very interesting. I love using him when I play killer. Especially on maps like Orman or like really maps that are really dark. That if you put a trap on the ground, no one's gonna even notice. Orman, you put a trap, it's either gonna blend in with the snow, or you put it in the house, the cabin. It's gonna blend in with the dark wood, and you're not gonna even notice it. But on Trapper, despite that, he can be argued about his hitbox as well. I think it's pretty fair though, so I'm not going to say anything. But that's Trapper for you. The Demogorgon's a B tier. Demogorgon, my favorite killer in the game, and recently he's come out of that the rare killer. He's more of a once in a while killer. He went from being super rare to once in a while. But every Demogorgon I've faced since my first encounter with one in over 2 months have been tunnelers. One of them was a tunneler and a camper. Super toxic, super trash killer right there. Like I honestly, hate that because he's my favorite killer and I don't really get to face off against him. But when I did, those 3-4 games I played so far, just it makes me sick. I've had my friends DC against a Demogorgon within 2 minutes because they were both hooked twice already. They were getting tunneled. One of them got camped. It's so unfair, man. He has a cool, Mori. The Mori's cool. He has a fancy way of traveling around the map. He can make tunnels that go through the ground. He'll pop up in a random place on the map. And his jump attack is pretty cool. He can jump like 20 yards. Just like that. It's pretty easy to juke though, not gonna lie, but despite that, he's an interesting killer, He can be good, he can be bad, he can be trash, he can be fair. It really depends on who you're playing against. The person behind the screen with the controller. Ghostface. Widely considered the second Legion. Ghostface is gonna go in the A tier too. I got a lot of killers at A tier. I'm not gonna promise anything, but I'm gonna tell you there's gonna be one killer on this D list. There could be also one more killer on the S list, at least one killer on the B list, one more killer on the A list, and maybe a killer on the C list, depending though. I don't know though. I didn't plan this out at the beginning, so. But Ghostface is one of those killers that he's a stealthy killer, very quiet. But unlike Michael or Wraith, his, I'd say, jacket he wears, those, pieces, those cloth that hangs off the side, when he's stealthy, those things just go in the air. They're like inflatable, wavy armed tube men. And you can't see his body, but you can definitely see those his pieces of his robe he's wearing waving around. It's super obvious. I'm just walk away or just stare at him. Hitbox could be also considered toxic, but at the same time, I think he might be a fair killer. He's a killer I don't really enjoy playing against. Every now and then, I can enjoy having a match against him. But despite that, he's not really, my favorite killer. He's not really a killer I enjoy playing against. But, I like to see him every now and then. I'd rather have Ghostface 10 matches in a row than having the Hag or Doctor twice in a row. That's saying something. Bubba Billy. Now, some people would put Billy at... No, not some people. No one would put Bubba anywhere in the last 3. Some might put him at A tier. I'm going to put him at S tier. For one reason only. Since his update, he's been one of the most used killers as well. From his special chainsaw attack that can knock down anyone that stands right in front of him, to him just being once again one of the most used killers in the game. I see him 3 or 4 times every 10 matches, at least. No, every like maybe 15 matches, but it's still a lot. With over 20 killers on the map, seeing one killer 4 out of 15 matches, that's a lot of fucking. That's a lot of people using the same killer at the same time. Just it's crazy, and I've done this tier list video like 4 or 5 times already. I keep redoing it because I don't like the results and stuff. I put Bubba before on the A tier, but I've realized he's gonna get downgraded soon. I heard my friend James come on my stream saying that they're gonna downgrade the Bubba. I'm like, okay, but for now he's still a top killer. He said, yeah. I don't know what he said about that, but I think I asked him, but for right now he's still a top, if not the one of the best killers in the game. In my opinion, I think Michael was the best killer in the game. But that's just me. I don't even like Michael. I don't like any of these killers. Demogorgon and the Oni. The Blight. The Blight is an A ranked killer. The Blight's very interesting to me. The Blight is one of those killers, he's the newest one so far. The twins, even though everyone knows they're out, everyone knows their name, they're still not out in the game. So until they are officially on PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, and on PC, he is still the new killer. He's a killer that not a lot of people liked him when they first heard about him. But now that he's out, a lot of people changed their minds. A lot of people thought he was really cool looking. His moves were cool. His perks were okay. All the people I know people who still haven't even played against him. And I know people when they first played against him after like a month of him being out, they hated him because he was different. He's a lot faster than Bubba, not a lot faster than Billy and Oni. And I guess you can say, Ghostface or Legion. He's a lot faster than them. And he can bounce off walls and get faster. That's the defined point of him. He can bounce off walls and get faster. The only problem with him is, unlike Billy and Oni, who if they run, they can down you in one hit. If he runs, he hits you, you're not down in one hit unless he has a special add-on. But yeah, A-list, not bad. Face them once in a while. I don't get why all these new killers, every time we get a new killer, they're popular the first like 2-3 weeks, and then after a month they just don't get used anymore. I don't know why. Hag. D-list. I got one reason, and that's one reason only. She needs to be updated and needs, a downgrading, especially with her markings on the ground. She gets unlimited markings. I've seen a hag use 20 markings in one match before. That's just a random number, but a hag that uses way more than 10 markings in a game, it's just completely unfair, like you have to crouch the entire way in the entire game. And it takes up so much time to crouch instead of walking or running. You end up dying before you finish 2 or 3 gens because it takes up time, which I believe is really unfair. And DVD needs to fix her up, limit her to like 10 markings, and she might be a lot more beloved killer, in my opinion. And now we have the final killer, the Oni. My main, my second favorite, and probably the killer I enjoy mostly going up against. I have to put him at B tier. I know if I put him anywhere higher than this, I might get some people in the comments saying, that I was wrong for that and you're only doing it because he's your main. So I won't do that. Even though it's my tier list, I'd rather, I'd rather have more people comment saying they agree than disagree. But it's totally up to you guys. Comment down below if you agree or disagree with any of these. Tell me why, and whatnot. And no, I don't want to have an argument in my chat, but I might give you an answer back. It depends. But the Oni is one of those killers just like Billy and the Blight, who can run and hit you, but the blight can't down you in one hit unless he has a special add-on. But let's just say he has that add-on all the time. He's like these three are literally the trio right here. These killers cannot be stopped when they're running. Oni, he's one of those killers that I enjoy going up against, not only because he's my main, but I like going up against killers who run fast, especially when I'm hiding and they run right past me. It just gets my blood pumping. I'm like, whew, this is fun. I want to go follow him. I just enjoy having that type of killer match, killer moment, and killer match. Oni, I would put definitely at A tier, but we'll find out in the comments. Hopefully, maybe this video won't get any views at all. Maybe the video will get a lot of views. But depends, depends how much people really do watch my videos. But that's gonna be it for today's video. Here's all the killers ranked from S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, and D tier. I made sure there was no survivors like Nia. I made sure there was every killer, Billy, and I made sure hopefully I make sure everyone's happy with these results. Some might have not changed. Most of them did, though, I believe. So leave a like. If this video can hit 100 likes, I will do a 10-hour Among Us stream. I promise. But I can't do it. I'll have to choose a schedule, and I'll have to schedule a date, basically. But I'll announce it either on my Discord or my community tab on my channel, my YouTube channel. So leave a like, subscribe. We're trying to get to 2K, so yeah, hit that subscribe button too, and I'll see you on the next video later.